this. But anyways, yeah, so 1 and 2, 7 and 6. So what we're going to do is we're going to add up 7 plus 1, and then we're going to divide that by 2, and then 2 plus 6 divided by 2. So that should be 8 divided by 2, which is 4. And same over here, 8 divided by 2, which is also 4. So yes, the midpoint should be 4 and 4. That's correct. Okay. But anyways, so we're going to do a squared plus b squared equals c squared.
Mhm.
And that should be 4 squared plus 6 squared is equal to c squared. Okay. So what would be 4 squared? What would that be?
16.
And then 6
Right?
squared? Yes. 6 squared would be
36.
36.
36.
Yes. So adding those two together, we have 36 and 16, which is 52. And so what's that last step that we need to do there to find the...
You square root it.
Right, we're going to
Square
take
root
the
'em.
square root of both sides. That cancels that out. So C should be equal to the square root of 52, which is about... I can do the
7.2.
decimal. 7.21, yeah.
Right?
Right. So our distance is
Yeah.
about 7.21. Right there. Okay. All right, so
Okay.
that's pretty good. So that's how we've been finding distance, but let's actually talk about how, like there is an actual formula for this, but how do we come up with the formula? Okay.
Okay.
So we already know that this is related to the Pythagorean theorem, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to use the same example and we're going to say, okay, we know that you need to do a squared plus b squared equals c squared. All right. So let's just pretend that we have this right here without any numbers. How would we solve for c? So if we wanted to cancel everything out and then just leave c by itself, how would we do that?
Square root it.
Right, that's right. If we take the square root of both sides, then c is equal to the square root of a squared plus b squared, okay? So we know that, right? We don't know what what a, what b is, but we at least know that if we wanted to find it, c would be equal to that, the square root of a squared plus b squared. Okay. So next question. How do we actually find a? What does our a represent?
The length, right?
Right. So let's just say our a represents here, this part right here. Let's say it represents this 1, 2, 3, 4. So how do we figure this
4.
out? Besides like counting, let's just try to say like we didn't have like a diagram. So how would we find it? And remember that this is 7 and 6, and this should be 1 and 2.
You subtract 6 and 2.
There we go. 6 minus 2, which gives us 4. What about B?
When are you gonna do your shit?
Damn, nigga.
Put yourself on me.
No.
Why are you complaining?
Because you was walking in.
Okay, so how do
Oh,
we...
you subtract again, right?
Right, so
Wouldn't
which
you?
ones would we subtract this to?
7 and 1.
7 and 1, which is equal to 6. Yep.
Six.
So let's just replace what we know A and B is, right? So C is equal to the square root of 6 minus 2 and 7 minus 1. Okay. So if we solve this, this should be the exact same thing that we came up with when we were solving the Pythagorean theorem, right? So we already know 6 minus 2 is equal to 4. And 7 minus 1 is equal to 6. We have 16 plus 36. So C is equal to the square root of 52, which is 7.2 or something like that, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So all right, so can we see the whiteboard?
Yeah.
So this is a formula for distance. Okay. So we should have x2 minus x1 squared, and then y2 minus y1 squared.
Okay.
And so,
Distance?
yes, this is the distance on 2 dimensions, right? So again, we already
Okay.
basically came up with this, right? We just did it right now. This is actually like, I guess, putting a definition to what the actual formula would be. Okay. So let's try to do this. Let's try to do this with an actual problem. So let's say that we have 2 points at -2 and -8, and at 3 and 7. So let's try to put this into our formula. And what we would want to do is just say,
B.
well, we can start off by saying this is x1, so this is y1. This will be x2, so this is y2. Okay. So if we put it into our formula, what would that look like? So what goes in the first set of parentheses?
3 and -2.
3 and -2, so we should do 3 minus
No, 3 minus negative.
3 minus -2. Okay. And then on the other side, what would we have?
7 minus -8.
And this is also squared. Okay. So now that we have that, let's go ahead and solve it. Okay. So 3 minus -2, what happens there that we have the parentheses separated?
You add it.
That would become addition, right? So I should be 3 plus 2, which is equal to
5.
5 squared. Now on the other side, we again have 7 plus 8, which is equal
15.
to 15 squared.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna make some space up here because I'm running out of it. But if we do 5 squared, that should be 25. And then 15 squared should be 225. So we add those two together, that's 250.
225.
which is-
15.81.
There we go, 15.81. Okay, so our distance is about 15.81. And again, if you put this in a graph, you can create that right triangle and it'll give you the exact same answer. But this is just a way to do the formula just in case, you can't graph those points for whatever reason. Okay, does that sound good?
Yes, sir.
All right, does everyone have that down?
Yes, sir.
Mhm.
So again, remember, the formula should be x2 minus x1 and y2 minus y1 squared. And we're going to take the square root of all that.
Are we doing another one?
Let me see. Yeah, let's go ahead and do one more. Guys, give me a second. All right, so now let's say we have, let me just make as much space as I can here. Let's say we have 2 and 5, and we have 8 and -3. So again, let's put this into our formula, distance formula. And it always helps for me to label x1, y1, x2, y2. So inside the formula, which numbers are we going to have? So what should go in the first set of parentheses?
Eight plus 2.
Or actually 8 minus 2, right? It's a subtraction.
And then
Remember, if it's a subtraction unless you're
Oh, okay.
negative, right? It should be 8 minus 2.
Oh.
And on the other side, we have -3
Oh, yeah.
minus 5.
yeah,
Okay. So then what's 8 minus 2 going to be?
6
6.
And
squared.
then
Yeah,
-3 minus 5 should be,
2, right? -2.
8.
that should be
Or
negative
wait,
8, right? Because that's
Oh,
-3 minus 5.
-8.
Yeah, -3
Oh,
minus
yeah.
5 would turn into -8. All right. So 6 squared, that's 6 times 6 would give us 36.
36.
Now remember, with -8 squared, it's inside parentheses. So what does that mean?
Ryan. Oh, I gotta go. I gotta go to work.
All right. Okay, that's fine. We're almost done. So
All right.
okay.
That means it's positive, right?
Right. So that would turn into positive because we have -8 times -8, and a negative would give us a positive 64.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see, 64 and then 36. So this actually becomes a little bit easier because that should be 100, and the square root of
No.
100.
Yes, sir.
The square root of
10.
100 would be a perfect
10.
10. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That was easy.
Okay. So yes, that should be I posted a homework, and if we just want to see it really quick, let me see. 1 second. Remember, guys, that the homework is on Google Slides. So you either have to put up the work to get full credit on Google Slides, or you can send me a picture of your work. Okay.
Okay.
If you guys see this, this is an example of what it looks like, okay? So with these first ones right here,
Rod, you can barely see the numbers on those.
for here,
Like the,
you mean the points?
yeah.
Like you mean the points? Here, let's, so like right there and right there, right? So try to zoom in as much as you can. If not, let me try and see if I can post the
Okay.
actual points, yeah? Well, let's see if we can figure them out right.
Okay.
Give me a second. Okay. Here, so this should be, let's see, we have, this is 1 and -2. This is -5 and 5. And we
Okay.
have
Let me take a picture of that.
4 and 0 right here. And -5 and 1. Okay. So you can do that right there.
Okay.
Let's go down to this. This right here should be -1 and -4. -1 and -4. And then the other point is -5 and -4. And the next one should be 3 and -5. And then -2 and 0. Okay. So for these first ones, you can either, you can either do the Pythagorean theorem if you want, or you can do the distance formula, whichever one you prefer to do. Okay. And the ones here on the bottom, for sure, we need to do the distance formula. Right here, since they're not giving you a graph, all they're giving you is points. Okay, sounds good?